So, I have been scrolling on YouTube for a while, trying to find some sort of positive video talking about either AI or something about the future of video games. What people look forward to in the future of video games and how much progression we'll get in the following years. And so, I'll do something like this where I'll type in the future of gaming or something to do with AI or, try to see videos where, digital's beneficial. And you'll see absolutely nothing but crying and negativity and bitching. And it's like, good freaking Lord. Oh, that's all you see, right? So, you got how bad is the future of gaming? I've several times I put in the future of gaming is awesome, and you'll still see stuff like this. You know, rest in peace. The future of gaming's bleak. This might be the future, but I don't like it, and I don't like it. Stuff like this is like, and you'll own nothing. You have this, the future of gaming, you own nothing. You know, is AI going to destroy game development? And it's like, I've researched countless things to tell you that AI is going to speed up gaming. It's going to make it streamlined to where the repetitive tasks aren't, taking nearly as long. But no, and everybody wants to focus on the negative part. Nobody wants to focus on the potential of what AI is doing, you know? And it's like nobody really sees the bigger picture. I know most people are unintelligent. I know most people aren't very smart. And I mean, I said the same thing twice in a row, but still. I know people have a limited capacity to understand things. I get it. It's frustrating for people like me who really have a deep understanding of things. And I see the future. I can easily, unbiasedly compare to the past, right? Everybody's like, oh, an all digital uh, future means a monopoly, and game prices are going to be skyrocketed. And I'm like, gaming is cheaper than ever thanks to digital. On PC it is cheaper than ever, and it's been digital only, and the competition's digital only. If you don't want to be on PlayStation, go to Xbox. If you don't want Xbox, you can go to PC. So there's competition even in the digital only sphere. And most of us have more than one console. So you're not locked. You're not locked to one platform. So everybody's negative about that. But it's like, if you're realistic and you truly understand the way gaming used to be, games used to be super expensive and there wasn't many options for cheaper. They had some bargain bin games back in the day. I remember Tomb Raider Revelation I got for $10 in a bargain bin. I love that game. Can't wait to get to it soon because I got the HD version now, and I got that on digital for about $10 to $15. So I got the Tomb Raider 1 through 3 HD remasters for about $15. They were $15, 14, $15, and then I got 4 through 6 for about the same price. Had a sneeze, but yeah. So I got 6 games for dirt cheap, thanks to digital. I got Final Fantasy Rebirth for $20, was going 30, 40, $60 on the Switch because Nintendo Switch is expensive as hell. But yeah, digital games is cheap. Even if it does get more expensive, which is like, it might take longer to go on sale and stuff like that for the big, first party games for sure. But we already deal with that with Nintendo, and that's not even digital only. That's just period. That's just because Nintendo's Nintendo. They're already the way you say digital's in the future is going to be, and you already are supporting Nintendo because they're the most physical of all three, but they're already the issue. That's the funny part. Everything you're saying to defend physical against Sony, and everything you're defending Nintendo for, they're already guilty of. So it's hypocritical, really. But like I said, go back to the '90s. I remember games were a lot more expensive. To get under $20 was rare. Now I'm countless games I'll get for $10, $5, 50 cents, $1 because of digital. That wouldn't be possible with physical because you have to pay for to keep it stocked, keep it on the shelf, yada yada yada, manufacturer costs and all that. So that's a positive thing, but everybody wants to focus on the fact that they might go away in 30 years or so. Oh, they've had some games being removed. So every game can be just removed for the hell of it because that's good for business. Everybody's like, oh, Sony can just remove games when they want. I'm like, how would that possibly be good for business? The reason they removed the movies that Sony removed was because it was on the PlayStation Store of all places. Who is buying movies on the PlayStation Store? I'm surprised. I forgot that was a thing. It was closed for 5 years before they freaking started doing that just now. I'm surprised anybody buys digital movies, period. And it's like, streaming is fine. Like, who rewatches movies? Like, there's so many things to do. Why would you rewatch movies over and over again? I mean, you can rent it, I know everybody's different, you might rewatch a movie every year. For that, maybe buy that. Like people that watch Christmas movies every year, like Home Alone and stuff. If you watch it every year, sure. But it's like, or you just get Disney Plus and watch it. Because it's permanently on there, I believe. So it's like, get an ad version, or rent it. Rent it once a year. It's $4 or whatever it is. Last time I checked, rentals were about $4. So, it's like, ooh, you rent it for $4 a year. It's like, that's not that big of a deal. And, you're thinking, okay, buying it would be better. Sure, cool, whatever. Even if you bought it, and it gets removed, it would still be cheaper than renting it every year, right? So you win no matter what. It sucks when things get removed, of course. But the thing is, nothing I've ever bought digital has been removed. And if it does, I'm not paying that much for any of these things. Every game I buy is about under $30. Now, GTA 6, I'm getting a little more hyped for because I looked up, because I don't watch leaks and stuff like that. I just watch it the way it is. I don't even really like watching trailers much. I try to go into a game completely blind. But I will probably watch the trailer on Netflix when it comes out, just to kind of look at it. Try to bare minimum. But I did ask AI questions about the features in Grand Theft Auto 6. And the fact is, cars are going back to kind of like 4, but I hated the physics of 4, right? Most people's like, oh, physics of 4 is so realistic. It's not. Every car controlled like a freaking van, an armored van. And I'm like, that's not realistic. It's not that fucking difficult to drive a car. It doesn't take that long to turn a car. It's like, oh yes, you have to slow down and turn. So you have to do that in GTA 5 too. It's just like people make excuses to defend the physics of GTA 4. I get the appeal. I get the appeal. I get the skill, uh, the learning curve involved, right? I appreciate a good learning curve. That's why I love Resident Evil. Oh, um, I love Metal Gear Solid controls. I don't love Tomb Raider controls. When I play the HD versions, I turn on modern controls. It's much better. That's the one game where that just ain't fun with the tank controls. It's just not. It's just not right. It's just not right. I did play Chronicles back in the emulator, with the traditional controls, of course, and I had a lot of fun. But that was just a much more updated game. That's the fifth game in the series, so um, it felt a little more polished at that point, I think. But still, um, and of course the HD helps a lot of not knowing what the hell is on the wall because everything looks like crap. But yeah, besides digital gamings, it's just like, everybody wants to act like it's the end of the world over plastic. I'm like, come on now, whatever. But besides that, it's like people are that way anyway. Oh, it's the end. AI is gonna destroy everything. I'm like, bullshit. PlayStation's not happy about this. Dreamcast guy, he's known to be negative about everything. I unsubscribed to him for years. But the thing is, he has the best topics and news. He's really good with the news, and he uploads very quickly. He's a hard worker, I get it, but he started spoiling stuff in certain games, and it really started pissing me off. Along with him trying to be funny for a little while, there was a period of time where he was trying to do skits, and I'm like, this is so cringe. On top of the fact that he's just super negative a lot of the time. Which is funny, I love the fact that he's a PlayStation guy because I'm a PlayStation first guy. And people love to call me a PlayStation fanboy, which is funny because it's like, as soon as the PlayStation started to become secondary, I switched to Xbox 360. So, on the beginning of that generation, I went to Xbox 360 because it's like that was the console. But the thing is, I learned my lesson. You know why? Because by the end, the second half of the Xbox 360, they was obsolete by then. People love to praise the Xbox 360. I'm looking back, I'm like, did you realize that was only the first half? You could easily just look up all the exclusives and compare. Everything was on Xbox 360 at first. And, because people had issues porting games to, their processor, whatever. So, it took a while for them to get a good start. But after they did, they had games like Resistance, Ratchet and Clank. They had a gazillion Ratchet and Clanks on that console. Not Jak and Daxter. Last of Us, Uncharted, all three Uncharted. They had, all three Resistance. They had Infamous 1 and 2. They had Demon Souls. The list goes on and on. White Knight Chronicles, which I never played, so I can't really say if it's good or not. 1 and 2. Metal Gear Solid 4, which is the reason I got a PlayStation 3. Well, one of the reasons I got a PlayStation 3. And, I actually got a PlayStation 3 thinking Final Fantasy Versus 13 was coming out. Which is funny because Final Fantasy 15 ended up being my most hated Final Fantasy. But, I was really looking forward to that game. And to this day, I wish it was coming out. I heard Kingdom Hearts 4 is going to pretty much be Final Fantasy Versus 13 with something. I don't really know if it's the entire story or what. I know they started it in Kingdom Hearts 3 with the Rex dude, Verum Rex or something like that. But yeah, but you can look it up, and that's pretty cool to think about. But it's not the same. I don't want it in Kingdom Hearts. I want it in Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy is more grounded. I love Kingdom Hearts. Don't get me wrong. Kingdom Hearts 3, I did have an issue because it was Disney only, no Final Fantasy, and it felt just linear. I don't know, something about it just felt so. safe, and it didn't feel as, I don't know. There's something I can't describe it. I really can't describe it. There's something about 1 and 2. It just feels like you didn't really, you never really felt like where I was going. But with like Kingdom Hearts 3, it just felt like, this is, I don't know, everything you kind of would expect at that point happened. I'm not sure if that's how I would describe it. Maybe something that somebody else in the comments can like tell me if you play Kingdom Hearts 3 and kind of could really describe what it did wrong besides the Final Fantasy, no Final Fantasy characters, or Final Fantasy worlds or anything like that. And I would double down on Kingdom Hearts 4. I know they're not. They're more Disney at this point, but it would be really cool if they came out with multiple games in a row. But oh yeah, and one of the big reasons I hated Kingdom Hearts 3, or I didn't hate it, I really enjoyed the game, but one of the big issues I had was there was less worlds. So you had bigger worlds. Now I love that, but the fact is, you had less, and so you're basically, you waited forever for Kingdom Hearts 3 to come out to begin with, and now it's taken forever for Kingdom Hearts 4 to come out. So you had a few worlds in like 15 years, and it's like you wait all this time for just a few worlds, and it's just like so disappointing. Like, and like I could be negative, of course. A lot of my videos can be negative, but it's like more of like me trying to push a narrative against all the other narratives. It's like, everybody thinks the same. Everybody's a puppet. Everybody's the hive mind. Everybody thinks the same, right? And it's like, even when something like me saying like I don't like Fallout New Vegas, right? It's because Fallout 4 gets all this hate, and it's like, obviously it's a good game, but people want to be just focusing on the negative. And when people are positive about something like Fallout New Vegas, it's to shit on something newer. People did the same thing with Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Everybody wanted to shit on Skyrim, but now Skyrim's such a massive cult game at this point. Everybody and their mama became a video game fan because of Skyrim. It's pretty much impossible to truly go, Oblivion is better than Skyrim, or Morrowind is better than Skyrim, or Daggerfall. I was a Morrowind guy, but that game aged like milk. Just like GTA 3, 4, and San Andreas. Those games age like milk. Now, I can't wait to play the Definitive Edition. I heard they're fixed, like Cyberpunk. So I'm going to try to play those soon when they're on sale. Digital sell. But, that's another game that got a lot of negative. Because, they look cartoonish, or mobile graphics, all this AI stuff, AI upscaling. People's like, this looks like mobile graphics. I'm like, there's always something freaking negative to say about graphics. It's like, this obviously looks better than GTA 3, 4, and San Andreas. The way they originally looked, because those graphics were an eyesore. They were awful looking. And people want to praise them, but just because of nostalgia, I'm like, really? Do you know how much I hated those graphics back in the day? And that was back in the day. That was back in 2002, 2003, when I was playing those games. I didn't play them. I don't think I played them in 2001. But I remember even then, I was thinking, damn, the graphics are awful. And then I played Driver 3, and I remember thinking, oh my god, that explosion looks so much better. The graphics are so much better. The Getaway had so much better graphics. And that came out around the same time, but it had less features, right? But yeah, and people, that's all people want to do is be bitch and bitch. Negative. And I'm like, every time I look at that, I'm like, oh, that looks awesome. They made it like a real life version of GTA 3 with like real faces, which it might be fake, but still, DSSR AI upscaling, right? It's made it possible to where you can have almost photorealistic graphics. on the PlayStation Pro and PlayStation 6, PC with the right hardware. It's really cool. It's really interesting. And that's just the photorealistic stuff. You can still have, your uh, cell shaded stuff. You can still have your anime stuff. But it's a great way to basically upscale anything. So you just imagine though, old games getting remastered easily just by AI upscaling, which is good because a lot of us just want Final Fantasy VII to be remade the way it was with better graphics. With AI, that's possible, but nobody really thinks about AI is or everybody wants to go AI is trash, AI is slop, blah 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 blah. I'm like, I do not want to play Final Fantasy VII with just slightly better graphics. I want to play them. I want to look at that game and have like basically modern like PlayStation 3 Final Fantasy VII demo. I want that to be a reality. Not this crap of the Final Fantasy remake, Final Fantasy Rebirth. I do love Final Fantasy Rebirth, other than the fact that they changed Sephiroth and they changed the ending, and it's basically a sequel, not really a remake. It's a reimagining. I do love the combat and all, but it changed to the point where it's like, okay, this is not Final Fantasy VII, even in the slightest. Sephiroth is not even. He didn't act the same. He didn't. He wasn't. You know. He didn't show up at the same points in the story. He showed up way too early. There was no build up, and I'm all about my build up. So they ruined that, and they jumped the gun having him as a final boss in the first game. And I'm like, really? You just ruin it? Even if it's not the true Sephiroth, it's still, you're wasting precious. You could easily make anybody else, more important, but you had to make it Sephiroth. It's like, okay, we love Sephiroth, we get it, but we can wait. We could wait for the next game to fight Sephiroth, or the next two games. We waited the entirety of Final Fantasy VII, the original, to fight Sephiroth. We can wait. But yeah, like I said, I know it might sound hypocritical that I'm negative and all, but it's just like I'm frustratedly annoyed at y'all being negative. So it's like, I get it. Negative. A negative against a negative doesn't equal a positive, but good lord, man, that's what makes me negative. It's like all the people crying. It's like, damn, dude. It's like that's all people want to do is just doom and gloom. We live in an age where we have more games than ever. We have so much access to many great games. Sure, they don't live up to the childhood stuff because, nothing ever will. And, certain games, the games we love the most are usually not as good as they once were. So it doesn't feel like gaming is as good. Like Final Fantasy is a shell of its former self. Resident Evil's still doing good, but it's still not the same. It's still not giving me old school Resident Evil. You get more of that from Tormented Souls and Evil Within, which is still my favorite horror game. The second one, Evil Within 2, that's still my favorite horror game of all time now. And freaking people love to bitch about Silent Hill. I was just thinking, I love the open worldness of Evil Within 2. That's what I love about Silent Hill Downpour. And everybody loves to bitch about those games. But then they love 4 for some reason. It's weird. It's like people are positive about the crappier games. But everybody loves to bitch about Silent Hill Downpour. And it's like, that game was buggy at launch. That's it. The game was fine when I played it. And it wasn't dull. And people complain about the combat. And I'm like, did you play the first 3 games? The combat, well, mainly the first 2. Well, no, 3, or the first 4 games. I love Silent Hill 3. I've been playing through the series. I'm thinking about dropping Origins because it's not good. But 4 and Origins are really bad. But Silent Hill 3 is the only one that's aged gracefully. But even that game, the combat is ugh. So it's like all these games have horrible combat. Silent Hill 2 is the most positive, most beloved in the series. It doesn't even have puzzles, really. Just like Resident Evil 2 is the most beloved. But people don't like puzzles, so that makes sense why, Resident Evil 4 doesn't have puzzles. Resident Evil 2 didn't really have puzzles. And those are the most famous ones. It's like people don't want to think. Puzzles are not mainstream. But what's just funny is when you get into Resident Evil for the puzzles, you get into Silent Hill for the puzzles, it's a total different dynamic because you have your own, your opinions are automatically going to be different. Us Silent Hill 3 fans are obviously got to, be at least a little bit of a puzzle fan because that is one of the more puzzle esque games. The first game has the most obtuse puzzles. They don't have that many because it's a short game, but a very short game, even though it's about the same length. It don't feel like it, but it has two puzzles that's super hard: the piano puzzle and the last puzzle. Which the last puzzle, I don't think it's that hard. I think it's just the way I was just reading the puzzle that kind of threw me off, and I kept trying to find a solution that was different than the one it was. It's a riddle, basically. A riddle is basically like a mind fuck, where it's like, oh, you think the answer could be multiple ones, but they want you to answer a certain way. And that's where a riddle to me is illogical. Because it's like, it's like the answer could easily be this, but it's not because you say so. Because you want the answer to be this. And people do that on Facebook all the time. It's like, what is the answer to this question? And a lot of people have different answers, right? But they're all wrong because they didn't do it the way it was intended. So I'm like, that's illogical. But anyways, guys, what do you guys think? I'm just like, I just wanted to make this video because I was just, like I said, I was scrolling through. I was trying to find some positive videos on certain topics, and it's like negative, 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 negative. It was like, am I ever going to have anybody talk about positivity? Positivity?